Okay guys, Mr. McNally here. We're going to be starting our last topic for the year in Living World, and that's ecology. Ecology is all about the environment, so I think you guys will find this stuff kind of review or kind of information you know a lot about, but the thing that's really important to be careful with here is the vocabulary. There are a lot of words that mean very specific things, so if you don't understand something, please reach out. So basically the living world is organized into different levels. And the first bullet says there are various levels of organization in our living environments. Second bullet, scientists start with the simplest living things and add more complexity. All right, guys, so we're going to be studying ecology today. It's the last unit you're going to be learning for the year. And ecology is the study of the world around us and how it's organized with organisms, things that are alive, and then also the non-living things that they need to survive. So some vocabulary is going to be very, very important as we go into this unit. So here's a couple of pages of just words that you need to make sure you know. First word up is organism. An organism is any individual member of a species. It could be one butterfly, it could be one bacteria cell, it could be you. Any living thing, a plant, would be an organism. Bigger than an organism would be something called a population. A population is all of the members of a single species in a given area. So if we are looking at a chipmunk running across your backyard, well, that might be one organism, but he doesn't live all by himself. There's probably a mate and some offspring and other chipmunks in the area that would make a whole population of chipmunks. That's all of the chipmunks in the forest would be a population. Now that doesn't include things like trees and birds and squirrels and rabbits. Those are different populations because they're all different species. If we move up from the population, the next bullet says community. The community is all of the various species of organisms in a given area. Also in parentheses it says biotic resources. So biotic, bio means living. So basically a community is everything that's alive in a given area. So if we just took your backyard and we talked about the community would include the grass and the trees and the flowers and the worms and insects that live in the soil and around the trees, and maybe the chipmunks and squirrels and rabbits that hop around in the backyard, and the birds that are flying overhead. Also the bacteria that live in the soil and anything else that's alive. So the community is all of the plants, animals, fungi, protists, monarans, which is a fancy word for bacteria, anything alive, all of the species together. All right, so what makes a population different from a community is a population focuses on one species, one specific type of living thing, and a community includes all of the living things. So you can see that the community is bigger than the population. If we go bigger than a community, we talk about the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is everything that's in the community, so all of the community members, the living things, and all of the non-living things that are needed to sustain them. So the living things are the biotics, the non-living things are the abiotics. And what do we mean by abiotics or non-living? Well, the example tells you sunlight, gases, water, weather, etc. So anything that you might need or an animal or a plant might need to survive would be included in the ecosystem. So that is the water, that is the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the temperature, the weather, all that stuff that's not living, that living things couldn't live without. And then if you go bigger than an ecosystem, in the entire planet, we call it the biosphere. The biosphere is all of the ecosystems composing the Earth, and that would be the forests, the deserts, the grasslands, the oceans. Now, I'm sorry, it kind of goes crazy when I do that. The biosphere is made up of individual parts. We call these things biomes. Forests, rainforest would be a specific type of biome. A desert is a different biome. A grassland, an ocean. So those are all of the different types of ecosystems or biomes that make up the entire planet, which is the biosphere. So this is just a slide telling you the difference between things that we call biotic, living, or abiotic, non-living, which we already talked about. So using the bald eagle as an organism, there's one individual member of a species. It's the bald eagle. It's an organism because he's all by himself, and there's no diversity here. There's just one, no diversity. Then you go up and you see a whole population of eagles. So on this lake, there are 5 different eagles. Well, that's the population of eagles that hunt on this lake. They're all of the same species, so they're a population. Does it include a lot of diversity? Not really, because diversity means differences. And yeah, they're different birds, but they're all the same species, so they have a lot in common. So there is some diversity, because this one isn't exactly the same bird as that one or this one or this one, but they are not very diverse because they're all bald eagles. Moving up, if you remember, we go from the population to the community. The community includes all of the species. So there's this prey item, which looks like a duck. There's the bald eagle, and it's being chased by a seagull. Now, the reason this has got more biodiversity, more differences, is because we don't have all the same species. We have an eagle, we have a duck, we have a seagull. Also, we would have to include in this lake or this body of water all the fish, the bacteria, the insects, anything else that's alive would be part of this community. The ecosystem, it goes bigger than that because it's including things like the clouds and the oxygen and the water and the sunlight, okay? The dirt, the mountains, that's all part of the ecosystem. So this is including the biotic, living things like the eagle, like the fish, like the humans, and the abiotic, like the clouds and the sky and the water and the soil and the mountains and the sunlight and the weather. All right, so this would be the ecosystem. And then if we go bigger than the ecosystem, if you remember, the last one is the biosphere. The biosphere has the most diversity because it's the entire planet where life exists. So that would be the deserts here, the Sahara of Africa and California, the rainforests of South America and Africa. It would include the oceans. It would include the polar regions and the North Pole and the one that you can't see on the South Pole. It would include the regular forests, or what we call the temperate forests here of New York where we live. So the biosphere is everything on the planet, the most diverse. So what is biodiversity? It's the number of different species in an area. The more diverse the environment, the more stable. So organisms benefit from other species. If there's a lot of different living things, there's lots of places to find food and lots of places to avoid being eaten by predators. There's a lot of different niches, we could say, or a lot of different ways that living things can interact and survive if there's a lot of different organisms around. So the biodiversity is always a good thing, and it makes the environment much more healthy and stable. So if we filled in these circles, sorry guys, I don't know why this goes so fast. You fill in the circles with these words, okay? You have in the inner circle, you got to pick the smallest one. That would be your organism. If you go up from the inner circle to a larger grouping, which one would that be? Hopefully you guessed population. That would be the second circle. Moving up from the population, you would pick the community. The community would be bigger because it's not just one species, it's all of the species. So the next ring, it's either the biosphere or the ecosystem. Hopefully you picked the right one, ecosystem, because that's just one type of environment, but the whole planet would be the outer ring, which would be the biosphere. So I hope those words all make sense to you. We are going to have some assessment questions for you to answer. Get those done today or tomorrow, and the next day we're going to continue into food chains and different types of ecology work. All right, guys, have a great day. Signing out.